Good morning. The class is called marketing, and we are looking for ways to how do we make your product, for example, known
Copy that,
in the
yeah.
internet. Yeah, because how do we let people show CS95 and think, oh, I want to buy that product and I want to have it. Like the how you call it, advantages, or like the good parts, because we were on Kickstarter when we started to look for our product. We needed to find a product, and yours stood out more than the rest because it's very usable now, the mask. And it's when you look yeah, on the side of Kickstarter, the many advantages from money to saving the planet, eco-friendly, and that kind of stuff. It's really amazing to call it, I think. So that's why we chose the CS95.
The masks now, they're reusable masks that are just throwing away, like going into the ocean and stuff like that. So,
No, you know about the North Pacific Gyre, which is a island of plastic that has been growing to a size that's larger than Texas, uh, larger than actually the Netherlands as as a footprint. If you think about it, it's probably maybe 3 times the size of the Netherlands, and it's purely plastic. Even at the end of the life cycle, microparticles get dispersed into the ocean, and the fish, the aquatic life, eat this these microparticles, and that begins a chain reaction throughout coral reefs, throughout other species that have begun to become extinct. So for what we're doing now in terms of the polypropylene masks that we see being disposed of daily on the billions of tons of masks that are being disposed of, how do you start from an idea to an actual product? And what is that process like? I want you to expect that there's going to be a formula or step-by-step process, but I can only share with you the my experience and my insight through starting 2 companies. One, I don't know if you know about our first company, but I invented a solar light that flat packs and pops open into a cube, and it's to replace kerosene lanterns in regions where there's no electricity. So this is one of our solar products. It's called the Twilight. It's very flat, and then it pops open into a cube, and this one has different settings. So
Looks good. Looks
the,
amazing.
the whole idea is that, again, thinking about global issues. When the Haiti earthquake happened, I quickly turned my studio around to be an innovation studio to help Haiti. That's when we realized through our research, 2.6 billion people don't have access to electricity, and they're using kerosene to light their world. And there is an economics behind this, because in very poverty stricken areas, people who are only making $3 a day, they will spend up to 30% of their income on kerosene to light their world, when they can use that money for education, for food, for clothing. Before you start any venture, before you begin anything at all, I think the most important thing that you should do is to create a core soul in yourselves for a purpose and a set of values that you believe in. And this is incredibly important before you start anything in terms of a venture, especially if you have a great idea, because it can't be about making money. It can't be about, just having success or being, a CEO or anything like that. It has to come from a core set that you define for yourselves as a purpose for making a difference in the world. Because this journey of creating this venture is so much work. It has tremendous effort, and no matter what, you will fail. You will be confronted with people that tell you that you're wrong. You will be confronted with people that are going to tell you that you're not good enough. And you will come across incredible challenges. And if you don't start with this core set of values, you'll give up, basically. You won't be able to withstand it because it is a very difficult journey. And the amount of work and time and effort and sweat and blood that goes into a successful venture is tremendous. And so the only way that you will be successful in that is if you start with this set of purposes that you set for yourselves. So every time that we've started a company, it's always been because we want to make lives better and we see an opportunity to help people. We see a problem, and through our research and through our insight, we're able to design something for the future, design something that more or less can be hacked because the need is now. It's not something that can wait. Part of what we've been doing is kind of hacking technologies that are already existing and create a rupture in the way that we put these existing technologies together to solve a problem. So in the instance of SEEUS95, there's actually 3 different problems that we saw as harm to humans and the environment. The first I already spoke about in terms of the polypropylene. The second is the physical harm that we saw with healthcare workers. In order to have an airtight seal here for the N95 to work, you need that incredible pressure on your face, and it was causing wounds to so many doctors. So we wanted to eliminate that pressure. So that meant eliminating the ear loop, eliminating the head harness, and allowing the mask to just gently adhere to the skin. And so this is where the hack comes in, where I'm Korean and I am obsessed with skincare. One of the things that has been on the market and has been very effective are these skincare patches for anti-wrinkle. And they adhere to your skin, but they also give you skin therapy for smoothing your skin out, and also a kind of collagen hydrogel. So knowing that this material is already out there, we decided to use this as the perimeter adhesion seal for the mask. There is another level of research done in terms of what are the other products out there that could possibly be used, and there's a lot of failures in testing the other products. Now, the other is transparency. So the deaf cannot communicate, and we believe in our hearts and our minds that inclusivity is absolutely important for world change, and we cannot exclude the deaf in terms of design. And the designs that you see out there are a kind of afterward, a terrible afterward patch where they just cut out a window and put vinyl in there. And we believe that it does work in terms of you can see people's mouths and read lips, but in terms of dignity, in terms of human confidence, in terms of inclusiveness, it fails. The whole issue of the fourth one, which we feel is the most important part, is we need to link each other and our communities and our families and friends back to humanity by being able to smile at each other again. Our emotions, our facial expressions is part of our humanity. And by covering our faces, this cuts off that connection, whether it's a doctor to a patient, whether it's a child to a newborn child to their grandmother. We have grandmothers that haven't even had the grandchildren see their grandparents for the first time yet because they're always covered. And then there's also the cognitive skills and learning experience for childhood development. The other aspect that we believe in our core is that simplicity is key. Design is incredibly difficult if you want to make it simple. And so there was a very long process of trying to design this thing so that it was simple, easy to use, but also there's this element to our masks where when I first gave it to my, because of the pandemic, we couldn't hire models or get a, film crew to help us. So we had to, again, hack and use volunteers from our neighborhood, people in our building. And I went to the bank, and there's Victor, who is a really big African-American man. And when he first tried it on, he said, wow, I feel like a superhero. And that really stuck with me because that's what we want. We want to enhance people's lives. We don't want to confuse them. We want them to put this thing on and make you guys feel like you're superheroes. The look of it should be beautiful, well designed, simple. And quarantined for 3 months. I did not see my son for 3 months, so I had some time on my hands. And I turned my kitchen into a lab. And I basically ordered every single element of my A/B testing from Amazon. Everything from silicone to the plaster to the sandpaper to the resin. Luckily, when people heard that I was doing this, one of our interns from 2 years ago, Chloe, she heard about it and she contacted me and she said, I just want to be part of this. I think this is fantastic. And whatever you're doing, whatever help you need, I'm there for you. And I said, Chloe, I don't have any money right now. Like, I'm just doing this because I think that this is the right thing to do. And this is really needed in terms of the industry of face masks right now. But she said she didn't care. That I didn't have to pay her. But she ended up joining, and she's been an incredible asset. I love Chloe, and she's still going to continue working with us now. Back to the core, which is values and purpose. We tried very, very hard to be authentic in all of our content, all of the visuals, in terms of simplifying, again, going back to the concept of simplification, to make it easy for people to understand our product. And I think that we did a good job, but I think we also failed because once we started getting backers, and this is the really, really, this other part is, I think, very critical, is one of your core values needs to be about having an open mind. You cannot come from a state of thinking that you know everything about your product just because you invented it or because it's your idea. But the real beauty of the product and the idea blossoms and intensifies and creates more meaning and more impact if you allow your minds to be open to a collaboration and a dialogue with the people that are coming to you. In this case, it's the backers, our pre-order customers. So within this process, we listened to our customers. We listened to what they wanted and the problems that they were having. And we quickly integrated that into our campaign. So one of the things that they asked for early on, which was all these short videos of how the mask works. And even though it's, you know, on the video up front and there's images, there wasn't a video of someone just, you know, simply putting it on and taking it off. And after that, everyone was so happy. And it was very simple, right? Because, and then you don't think about these things because it's your initial project. So being able to listen is incredibly important for the development of the marketing as well. Because you're not really, you have to come from a point of, it's not about you and your company, it's really about how you can help other people. The other thing that we realized is that people wanted a washable filter more than the N95 biofilter. And granted, up till this point, the filters for all the N95 masks and all the surgical masks have been made out of polypropylene, air spun polypropylene. And so my task was to develop a natural fiber. And this fiber is made out of corn, bamboo, and silk. And we've been testing it with MIT labs. And of course, since I'm a professor, I am maniacal about testing and creating a relationship. But again, even with the company itself, no matter what scale you're working with, whether it's with clients, whether it's with investors, whether it's with a lab technician, you have the responsibility to develop a good relationship with these people. I don't care who you're talking to, but business is always personal, no matter what, because good business is about good relationships. And that responsibility is on you to develop. And if you don't develop these good relationships, you will fail, because you want the energy and the climate in the team that you're working with to have that good energy, to have that trust. Everything goes back to those core values and purpose again, even with relationships. So we've developed an amazing relationship with MIT labs. I love these people. They're so willing to help, and we went through several painful testing results, where the first test results were terrible. When we did it again, and we tried different triaxial, biaxial, and combination hybrids of different fibers. But long story short, I think it was the third or fourth trial where we got 95 to 99% efficiency, which was fantastic. With the success, we started to get these little pings from China and from I think they're all based in China, but they were using our pictures, saying that they were going to deliver this product using our pictures. And I found out this happens a lot with campaigns where they're successful and people try to leverage that success to make money and to scam people. So this is an issue, and in terms of marketing, and how do you solve this problem? Again, it goes back to your core values, because if you can communicate to your community the authenticity of your product, they will create the ripple effect throughout throughout the world in terms of protecting you and standing by you. So early on, I did a lot of updates and emails and comments that purely focused on our mission and purpose and why we're doing what we're doing, which is to make lives better, to prevent harm to our environment, to help people see each other again. It's not easy. There's a lot of work in doing that because normal marketing people, a lot of marketing people go in thinking, we need to put as much, glam out there so that we can get people to click the button, so that we can, sell this product now. And it's not about that for us. And some people will tell us that we're wrong, but there's a saying that I say to myself a lot, which is the risk of doing nothing is greater than the risk of being wrong. So we did it anyway, even though we knew the pain and blood and sweat that would be forthcoming on this journey. So so that is one of the things that we're working on in terms of our connection to the small community that we started, and now it's grown. And we will continue with this philosophy and this way of connecting with people. I mean, again, we come in a world, we have this pandemic, we're all separated. So how can we connect people again? And we connect people again through authenticity, of being sincere, of, always trying to do the right thing. And so we're not about just selling a product or giving away a product. We really believe if we all work together, and we can't do it alone, but one tiny step, and to share that idea with another and another and another, we can move mountains. We can't move mountains alone, and we can only do that by moving pebbles. And together, it creates a ripple effect. So in our marketing, we always try to share small steps and small anecdotes, and always try to have a message or a lesson or a mission or just something that was happy to share with our backers, and to always go with an attitude of respect, an idea that we're working for you and it's a privilege for us, and we're here. And I actually believe that I'm here to be a servant. I'm not here to be a CEO, and everyone that I work with, I want to collaborate with them. I don't want to be a boss. I don't want to be someone that tells you what to do, but I respect every person and want them to feel empowered to make a difference, because I respect your intelligence, I respect your values, and you're here for a reason. So in the marketing that we use, we try very hard, again, aesthetically, going back to the whole idea of superhero, that you should feel empowered when you wear our mask, and the simplicity of it with all of our content, the photographs and any videos, but again, listening to our customers. So there was this one guy, and he asked for a yawn video. And so, of course, when I first saw this, I was like, what, are you kidding me? We have to do a yawn video? We kind of took it on as a fun challenge. And so we did it. But at the end, I when I was watching the video and I was choosing the music for this, I chose the music that was kind of hack of a like a superhero movie. So it was kind of like this big band, da-dun, 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 and but then it was, you know, just me doing a yawn and doing these weird flips with my head, and it came out very funny, I think, because of the music, and people really liked that. You know, that got the most likes in terms of our updates. So don't be afraid to be vulnerable or embarrass yourself because just be authentic and be sincere and always come from a point of trying to help. I'm still embarrassed about that video, and I don't know, I might have taken it down off of our YouTube channel, but it did help everyone realize how the material itself stretches when you open your mouth, because, you know, there's a dome in the silicone, and that dome material, when you open your mouth, stretches, and you can still have the airtight seal. Because again, research is so important. When you look at the world, observation is one of the most critical tools for you as a marketer. The more knowledge you have, whether it's in the industry or it could be a kind of you know, obtuse part of the industry, but because of your prowess, I kind of have a different view of marketers now in terms of their power in the world, because, you know, you're trying to send a message that's adoptable and digestible for people to connect to. And, you know, it's a very, very big responsibility. And I feel like the more honest and transparent you are, the more success you will have. Even though something might be in a different discipline, you still have something to learn there. And that can be used at another time. And you should be very careful in terms of listening to your intuition and listening to your own excitement or spirit or interest in anything that sparks something in you, because that can be used somewhere else, because you're not alone. If it sparks something in you, it's going to spark something in someone else. So once you start this kind of database of observations and listening to the world around you in terms of research and gaining knowledge, this will help you in marketing an idea, for whether it's now or sometime in the future. It's all part of a trajectory, and it's not linear at all, but it is something that is cyclical and will come in on itself sometimes. And that's the power of keeping your mind open. So one of the themes that we have infused into both companies, the solar light company and also the mask company, is this concept of light warrior. We've been able to help people in regions without electricity in Nepal, Syrian refugees. After Hurricane Maria, the Caribbean was decimated and no one had power for months. And we worked our butts off with nonprofit organizations and got over 100,000 of our solar lights to the Caribbean. And one time I realized that Dominica, very small island that actually has the oldest indigenous Indian tribe of North America. They live in Dominica, and after Hurricane Maria, they were decimated and had no power. And I put again, risk. The risk of doing nothing is greater than the risk of being wrong. I risked, put 2,000 of our lights in my luggage and flew down to Dominica, not knowing where I was going, not having a meeting with anyone. And on my flight, on one of the puddle jumper flights, I sat next to a very nice fellow, started talking to him, and I said, you know, I really want to go to the Kalinago region because they were hit the hardest. The Kalinago is the indigenous tribe. And he said, oh, well, you should talk to my father. He was one of the chiefs of the Kalinago. This is a small puddle jumper plane. And I said, okay, yeah. And he calls his father on the phone, gives his phone to me, and I talk to this guy, and he says, hi, I'm Patrick Hill. And he was a U.S. Senator of the British Virgin Islands. And he said, you know what, I've heard of you, and we're expecting you. So when you get off the plane, come to our house, which is in the Kalinago region, and we will get you to the schools. Because I have this thing with children. I really want to help children, especially because schoolwork, and if you don't have light at night, you can't get an education. So I got off the plane, went to this guy's house, never met the guy before, met his wife. They were awesome. And they, within like 2 hours, created a schedule for me to visit 7 schools. And when I went to the first couple schools, I started talking about how I'm an inventor and wanted to give them these, you know, these lights so that they could study at night. But it was more important for me to share my story and why we created this light. Why did this become into a thing? And I told all the kids, because they were very poor. A lot of them only have 1 meal a day when they go to school. They're in a 1-room house with one mother, maybe sometimes, and they have 5 or 6 siblings in one little room, no electricity. And yet, you know, all these kids were in school. You know, the schools didn't even have any roofs because they were all blown off. So they're in these different locations. And so I told the kids, you know, the sun is the most powerful source of energy that comes to the earth every day. But your imagination is more powerful than the sun. And they perked up and they kind of screamed, some of them. And I said, you know, you're going to get this solar light, but this means something now. This means that you're light warriors, and light warriors fight with the light in their imaginations and their hearts. Because when I was a little girl, I was very poor, and because I looked different than the other white kids or African American kids, I was beat up, I was punched, I was teased. And even as a little kid, I turned into a fighter back then. And this is something that came to me while I was talking to these kids. I had never really thought about it before, but I shared my story and said, you know, I didn't fight with my fists. I started to fight with my imagination and my heart. And that's what light warriors do. No matter what happens, you fight with this light, and that is the greatest weapon against injustice and poverty. And if you keep fighting with this light, there's nothing you can't do. And I tell them that the other thing that the light warrior does is you can never give up. So when I was creating my first product, everyone, like, there were lawyers, there were a lot of people that said, you know, you'll never get this to market. And so again, going back to what I said in the beginning, If you don't have your purpose, you're going to have people that are telling you that you're wrong. And if you don't have that, you're not going to get through it. You have to move through that, that pain. It's actually painful for people to tell you that you're wrong and you're never going to do it. You're not smart enough. It's extremely painful. So, but you know, if you don't have that core, you're not going to get through that. So, and also kindness, you know, because, you know, people are all coming from a different point of view. So it's not because that they're bad people. It's just that they're coming from a completely different way of thinking about the world. And important for you is to think about how you can attract the people that think like you and surround yourselves with people that are like-minded. So going back to the light warrior story, you know, a lot of them were, the kids were very religious. They ended up praying afterwards, and it was, you know, I said, the sun must kiss his face every day so that your dreams and ambitions can grow at night. And this light comes from the power of the sun, and you have the sun in your hands, and the power is not out there. It's in your hands. It's within you. And that goes back to the whole idea of light warrior, using the light of your minds and your hearts. So afterwards, I talked to the kids. I walked down the street and you see these little tiny houses with these windows, and you saw a solar puff in every window. So that right there, okay, they got it because they ran home and like started charging their solar light so they could use it tonight. But in any case, we decided to also, since that theme we believe is, and you can tell me if I'm wrong too, like I'm open to your questions and you can challenge me on this, but that is a universal theme that can carry to the mask. It can carry to future innovation, because in essence, innovation is about tapping into that power. So we put it in, you know, started calling the shield the light warrior mask, because first of all, the filters here kind of look like warrior paint. And then also the whole idea of the superhero, and the fact that it is light and transparent. It, you know, it only weighs maybe 0.9 ounces or 1 ounce. We call our backers. We started calling them light warriors. We're not only thinking about just the product itself, but thinking about broadcasting things like this with you guys. Maybe I'll share this with our backers as well. But it is more about sharing knowledge and education, and the fact that we're not just selling a product, we're also teaching children. Kindness is important. Questions, if you guys have any questions for me, I'd love to hear them. I'm open to criticism as well. Like one of the things that our backers said to me lately was, this is the first time I heard this, but this was yesterday. A backer wrote in our comments and said, I don't know what's up with this light warrior language, because I think it's flaky and don't know what, you know, why you're using this light warrior thing. And then another person wrote in and said, you know, it doesn't matter what the marketing team says. This is a good product. So, you know, I'm sure they're going to mull it over with the marketing or whatever. And I didn't know how to respond. So I ended up writing this long thing about where the light warrior idea came from. And I feel like I'm very patient, because I kind of come across this when I'm teaching as well with my students. Sometimes I have to say things like 5 or 10 times. But anyway.
We have your questions, of course. But before that, thanks for sharing your story and the story of both products. And the light warrior thing, I think, is really inspiring how you're doing. Because I was, little side story, I was at my friend's house yesterday at dinner. and we were having talk about masks and what they're doing, and I brought up your mask, the CS95, and the father goes, he's a big official dude at the NS, and that's our form of public transportation with the train. And the conductors, the people who check the tickets and those kind of stuff, wear masks, and they complain a lot about the masks they have. And he was like, yeah, I saw this mask you mentioned, CS95, right? So he was also looking at your masks to be the next thing for our public transportation things.
Wow,
That's
that's
a
so
pretty big one.
cool.
Yeah. So I mentioned I was having a meeting with you on Friday, and he was like, well, for real. And he was like really trying to get the thing through because of all the advantages your mask has comparison to other ones. But he's still looking at it. But what you said in your story about moving pebbles can move a mountain, I think that's a pretty big step you're already making. So that's really nice to hear. I hope.
That's really cool. I love that because that's a really great example of a ripple.
Mhm.
And I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, no worries. And for questions, because when I look at the mask, it's a really, I would say, perfect. It has so many good things for people, environment, and for looking at someone's face again. Seeing a smile is so much better than hiding behind a mask in a daily life and when meeting people. So a question from us as for the team for the school: how you're going to put on advertising, or how you're going to make your mask more known? Because you're already getting known over here, for
It was
example.
really strange because during very early on in the campaign, I had one person wanting to interview me for a website called the Undark or something like Dark Beast or something like that. I had never heard of this site, but she was a PhD student, so I like, being a
Mhm.
professor, and I did the interview with her, and she ended up posting it. But then after that, people like Smithsonian Magazine, Fast Company, they picked up this.
Mhm.
So then when I recently, when I Googled, all of a sudden I saw this whole page of different articles from Gizmodo Japan to Hypebeast. We did spend money on Facebook ads and IG ads, but we didn't spend any money on PR. We didn't spend any money doing a press release. And actually, in the beginning, I tried to reach out to a lot of press. I've done maybe 50 to 100 emails, and no one called me back.
Oh.
No one called me back. But now, if you type in transparent N95 mask, we come up on the first page. We did the photography, the content for that. Again, trying to keep it as simple as possible so that people could get the concept from the image right away. And I think the images that we use are compelling enough because of the simplicity of how we photographed and how and the people we used. The pandemic has kept us from like hiring beautiful people to do our content, which, you see a lot, right? You just always want to have these beautiful people using your clothes or your glasses or whatever. And we just use volunteers that were in our building, our babysitter, the people at our bank. And these are just real people, normal people in our neighborhood. And I think that really I think that was something that people connected with in terms of our, how our campaign was slightly different than others, because you see other mass campaigns where they obviously used models. Using regular people that could be your neighbor or your sister, and people connect to, as opposed to the Kim Kardashian, look that sometimes, it's this kind of instant gratification thing versus trying to touch people's, you know, trying to touch people's values. So anyway, Are there any other questions? And did I answer your question?
Yeah, you did answer our question because if you look on the side, you could how do you call it again? When you look at models, you're gonna be like, is it gonna look good on me? And when I see like my neighbor wear it or someone around me, it gives me more of a confidence to look at the mask. This gonna look good on me, and this is gonna help. At least I think it was the right choice to do it with your neighbors, your babysitter, or some.
We were wondering what your target market was. Like, what kind of people are going to wear the masks?
When we were targeting people for our own ads, we targeted people in every city that there were major hospitals, like nurses, physical therapy, schools, also universities, teachers. A lot of here we have the hybrid system of going back to universities, and a lot of young people want to go back. When you look at the data of who is clicking and who is coming to your site, a lot of them were in the age range of 20 to 30. There's a certain level of certification if we want to get our mask into healthcare, into the hospitals, and that's another level of testing that we need to do. But for the general public right now, we're targeting teachers, students, healthcare workers, like physical therapists, assistants, hygienists. Now that the restaurants are opening up again, people that are in the service industry, ideally, we want to make this available to nurses and doctors and patients in hospitals, because we really want the doctors and patients to have that social connection again.
And are you planning on doing that in the future, or have you already taken steps? Because it takes a lot of testing, right, to get it like medically approved.
It does. It is an arduous process. Hospitals. And so what they do is they look for innovative products that will help their healthcare workers. They saw our product. They want to do clinical tests with their healthcare workers.
So I think it's a really nice challenge also for us to like look at it a little bit differently than like usually how marketing is displayed, because that's very fast and very hard, and not always really looking at the people as much as money. So I think that's something very nice. We can work with that.
Yeah, I have a question too. Do you know at the moment like what your supply chain or distribution channel at the moment is?
Yes. So because of my other company and dealing with maybe 5 different manufacturers that failed, we've been able to create a good relationship with our manufacturers that we have now. And because we've already had that, our supply chain has already been set. They went out and sourced a manufacturer to do the mass production of this material. And then in terms of silicone, the painful process is getting all of the details right, and you don't want to frustrate your manufacturers by making these little changes all the time. So you have to kind of set the agenda that this will always happen. And like nothing's ever instant. And so, developing that relationship again is so important, because what you do in the beginning will affect that long term and the success of that long term. And I have an anecdote. Do you guys have time? That I think is really important is that going back to the Greeks had two characters of time, and one character, his name was Kairos, and the other character is Chronos. And Kairos is a line of time his line of time goes like this. He has wings on his feet. He has a bald head so that you can't catch him from behind. He flits and flies about. he's unpredictable. And then the other character of time is Kronos, and he's old, and he has a very long beard, and he is predictable. He's sequential. Line of time is straight. So you have these two lines of time, one that's straight and predictable, the other that is doing this. And every time those two lines intersect, those are the moments of opportunity. Those are the moments of invention. And if you see those connections, that's when innovation happens. Going back to your question of sourcing, that consistent line of time of us developing a good relationship with our manufacturers, and then the chaos of a pandemic occurring and seeing the opportunity to help, that created that intersection for us to actually do what we're doing now.
So I have a question too. So I did a lot of research on the whole face mask market, and you talked about observation before. So I would like to know your opinion or maybe your stance on your competitors. So basically, you have all these huge face mask manufacturers, and I would like to know your opinion and also like maybe what you think your advantage and maybe even disadvantages are in comparison.
Because
Yeah,
they're the market leading
yeah.
N95 mask. Just preface that with history, because in 1910 was the first time face masks were made, and they were made out of cloth just to get rid of smell for doctors in China. And then, but now you see they haven't changed in 100 years. We still have these cloth masks that do basically the same design. And then in 1959, a new material was created by 3M, and it was the air spun polypropylene, and they didn't know what to do with it. And so they hired this woman called Sarah Turnbull. Here's this material. Can you think of, products that we can make with this? And at the time, there was another pandemic, and she had close friends of hers that died. She took a section through her bra and created the N95 mask that we know today and has not changed in 60 years. That is an advantage, and it's also a disadvantage. The disadvantage for us is that it's already invaded the market, and they are the strongest market holder. It's an advantage because it's time for a change. And I think people know this now, especially since we've been confronted with the harm that it's doing to the environment. There are other products that are transparent. Samsung has a product, and the cost point is $350. They have an engine and a little computer in there. Affordability. All of our products, we believe, should be affordable for all, not for just the rich. And there's a reason why we know Thomas Edison's name and not the other 25 people that were working on doing the same thing at this time. And it's because Thomas Edison made it affordable for the public.
First of all, thank you for taking the time and sharing your inspiring story. Once you guys launch the product, how will you and trying to distribute and sell it? Is it just going to be available online, or are you also looking at potential shops you might sell the mask to?
Yes, the answer is yes for all of it. Because of the pandemic, I think we're only going to focus on online and retailers that come to us. Once we have inventory, we will be pursuing the distributors and vetting them to make sure that they're good partners for us first.
I have another question. For example, what are like your goals for the company, even Light Warriors and the mask? for like in 2 years? What's the goal? Do you have a goal set for yourself, for the team?
Every time I walk down the street, I see everyone with those terrible blue
Yeah.
surgical masks. I think to myself, wow, wouldn't it be great if everyone just had a light wearer mask when you walk down the street?
You look way better.
So always, my grandmother says always shoot for the stars, because if you shoot for the lamppost, you're going to hit the dog.
Mm-hmm.
So always try to, in the grand scheme of things, that would be wonderful. And we would love that. And I mean, with my professor background, I don't do this anymore in terms of talking to students. And everyone asks me, are you still teaching at Columbia, or are you still with Parsons? And I tell them no, but I think I'm teaching in a different way now.
Yeah, you are.
So Amy, do you have any questions?
But I just wanted to say how inspiring you are. I'm actually from South Africa. The rest of my colleagues are from the Netherlands. And your story really resonates with me because I'm surrounded by poverty in South Africa. I'm very blessed in the situation I'm in. So you're going over to the Netherlands, but I enjoy working with children. I've volunteered in the past. So this is just so inspiring for me.
That Pebble that we all just moved to Pebble, guys. And now you guys are going to create ripples. Really great to meet you and see all your lovely faces, and see your interest in all of this stuff that's happening. So
yeah, thank you.
bye-bye. Thank you. Bye.
Bye for the conference.